Well, only a year after VHS 94 was released, we now have another VHS movie this year again called VHS 99. And how will this one go? Hey everyone, it's Don G. Corleone here, and I am here with a brand new movie review. And this review is going to be for another new released horror film that came out last week on Wednesday. And didn't get time to watch this one last week, but because Black Adam was out. But I had finally just finished watching this one today, and it's for the fifth installment of a horror franchise, and about to kick off Halloween weekend. This installment. Yeah, this one, we all know its fourth installment came out last year, and now its fifth installment has come out this year because of the success of last year's. And that film is going to be for none other than last week's recently released film in the VHS franchise, VHS 99. The fifth installment. But let's get on with the plot before I say everything. Well, set at the dawn of a new millennium, VHS 99 presents viewers with 5 gory tales of found footage POV terror. In Shredding, a bratty punk rock band breaks into the ruins of an abandoned art collective where a previous band met their grisly fate in a freak accident. In Suicide Bid, a girl partakes in a claustrophobic hazing ritual for a sorority that soon unleashes the supernatural. Then in Ozzy's Dungeon, a sleazy TV show host is forced to endure a brutal obstacle gauntlet inspired by his own show, which causes the permanent disfigurement of a former contestant. In Nick Gox, voyeuristic teenagers unearth the horrifying truth behind the girl next door. And finally, into Hell and Back, 2 filmmakers asked to document a summoning ritual on the eve of Y2K are accidentally transported to a hellish dimension, where a tormented soul guides them in escaping its demonic inhabitants. Yeah. So how's this film made? Well, in September 2021, a month before VHS 94 was released, producer Josh Goldblum stated that a sequel would only be possible if VHS 94 proved successful with streaming appliances. Soon after its release on Shudder, VHS 94 broke viewership records for the streaming company, which prompted a rush to produce a sequel in time for the following year. This was believed to be going to be titled VHS 95, following a deleted social media post by actor Freddy Rodriguez in April 2022. The streaming service Shudder was to handle distribution, as it did with VHS 94. However, official confirmation of the film titled VHS 99 came in July 2022 from Bloody Disgusting, which co-produced the film alongside Studio 71, Radio Silence Productions, and Cinepocalypse Productions. The film was described to take place in the final punk rock analog days of VHS. The Blind Locust, Johan Roberts, Vanessa and Joseph Wanker, Maggie Liddon, and Tyler Messinter were announced as directors, with Goldblum, Brad Miska, David Bruckner, Chad Valletta, Matt Bellini, Tyler Gillett, and James Harris serving as producers. And Goldblum revealed that the first pitch to Shudder by the producers was a film set during Christmas, tentatively titled VHXmas, as well as a film set during medieval times. Shudder ultimately rejected these pitches in favor of VHS 99. Okay, I would have liked to see a VHS film set during Christmas, or one set during medieval times. But after the movie was shot, it premiered September 16, 2022 at the Midnight Mass category at the 2022 Toronto International Film Festival. Then it was released as a Shudder original film on October 20th, 2022, last week. And the reason why I wish we had those 2 other pitches instead of this, because as for my reaction, well, first I will clarify I am not the biggest fan of the VHS movies. The first one was okay. I mostly just liked the first short with the girl called Amateur Night, which was scary as fuck. You know where the girl goes, I like you. Oh, God. And then you got Tuesday the 17th was not bad either, but the frame narrative, tape 56 bullshit, that just ruins the first one for me, and it's the reason I barely watched the first one. VHS 2 is the one VHS movie I genuinely love. I loved both Safe Haven and the Alien segment the most. Those two scare me the most of this franchise. And you got the zombie one, A Ride in the Park was pretty funny. And you got VHS Viral, which was the worst of the worst. And they got last year's 94, which is kind of a bit of a surprise. It's the second best film of the series. Now back to this. VHS 99 sadly did not live up to 94 all whatsoever. In fact, this movie felt way too rushed. It's like they only made this due to the success of 94, and we're going to be getting another one of these VHS movies next year, and that's going to be VHS 85. VHS 99 is the latest in the mixed bag that makes up all the VHS franchise. Of the 5 stories, none are particularly awful, yet none hit some of the heights the previous VHS film managed, or VHS 2 even managed. At an hour and 50 minutes, for this kind of anthology is rather long, and the running time begins to tell the longer it goes on. Ozzy's Dungeon has a lot of potential, but begins to just bore. Same goes to Hell and Back. The most accomplished piece is Suicide's Bid, which contained the better scares with a more neat ending. But let's get on with the good stuff first. The good. I'm very happy VHS 99 refrains from the overarching storylines, which more often than not interrupt the storyline and aren't particularly even that interesting. This is a good old-fashioned anthology, and I really like that for once. Gone is just the tedious wraparound that always meant at least a fifth of the film would be substantially subpar. Gone is the visual and thematic inconsistency throughout the shorts. Gone is that one segment in particular that always stands out as inferior. In fact, it's kind of hard to say which one is the best this time, which is kind of a good side, but I'm going to get to the segments in a little bit. 99 brings us 5 deliciously gory and disturbing videos that not only share the late 90s visual aesthetic, but also a varied roster of ghouls, ghosts, mythological creatures, urban legends, cosmic horrors, and literal winged demons that are each fantastically well made and placed in stories that more than really matter. Now we'll discuss the shorts that are in this movie, and to my surprise, they did get rid of it, like I've already mentioned, they did already get rid of the overarching story part of the film, and it only took them 5 shorts. The first segment, Shredding, the one with the band, is a decent segment, I have to say, but not the best of the 5. I wasn't overly impressed with the visuals. I found the shaky cam kind of annoying, and was slightly worried when this was the first one, because usually these there's times when these films don't really start out strong. Like VHS 1, the first one does start out strong, the first VHS film, and it gets weaker as it progresses, with only Tuesday the 17th really standing out. I've on the stuff after Amateur Nights. VHS 2 starts out weak, but it gets better and better as it goes on. VHS Viral starts out bad and ends worse. VHS 94 starts out decently, ends decently. And then you got segment 2, which is Suicide Bid, the coffin one with the sorority girls. It's an improvement over the one I just mentioned, with the box reveal and aftermath being very well done and creepy, impressively filmed as well. And but I still wasn't impressed with the makeup visuals. Then you got segment 3, Ozzy's Dungeon, the game show one. I was extra worried after the first 2 segments being underwhelming, but this one was pretty much a large improvement, pretty disgusting and entertaining as well. Then you got segment 4, the Gawkers. Not my favorite segments. Ugh. This one just gave me Tape 56 vibes from the first film, and I don't want to see that in these sequels. Like, Tape 56 destroys the first one for me. I hate seeing that stupid bullshit in the first one. Every time I see that Tape 56 narratives crap, that's the crap I dislike the more and more I rewatch the first one. That just gave me those stupid vibes again. And then you got our final segment, To Hell and Back, aka the Mabel or Underworld one, which was the best segment of the movie. This segment is what boosts this movie in quality above like some of the other segments, the segments in this movie. Great use of visuals and a great idea for a short story premise. Acting was great too. Really impressed by the actress who played Mabel. Mabel, like I really hope the actress does come back for the next one they do next year. I would probably say, of all the segments in this whole franchise, Safe Haven, Slumber Party Alien Abduction, Tuesday the 17th, The Experiment from VHS 94, A Ride in the Park, and Amateur Night would easily be the top best segments in this franchise. By far. But yeah, Shredding, The Gawkers, and Ozzy's Dungeon are terrible segments. Suicide Bid was okay, and To Hell and Back is phenomenal. If you do not like discussing nonsense, definitely skip Ozzy's Dungeon. And if you do not like boring, obnoxious characters and mindless nonsense, skip just everything except To Hell and Back. In fact, if you just want to watch one of these segments, just only watch To Hell and Back and just don't watch the rest. Like, if you just, stay with the first film. Only watch Amateur Night, don't watch the rest, or maybe watch both Amateur Night and Tuesday the 17th. With VHS 2, skip the first segment with the Magician, but watch everything. Watch A Ride in the Park, Safe Haven, and Slumber Party Alien Abduction. In fact, you could only skip one segment from that film. VHS Viral, you could skip all the segments. And then VHS 94, watch the segment with the rats, giant rats, I forget the first one's called, and watch The Experiment. Those are the best segments. And then with this one, just only watch To Hell and Back. And the film is presented as this mixtape of 5 different narratives set in 1999. Unlike in the previous VHS entries, it does not have an overarching frame narrative between each short. Instead, there's these short stop-motion animations from toy soldiers. Animations of toy soldiers made by one of the characters from the Gawkers serve as interludes before the Gawkers actually happens, after Ozzy's Dungeon. And then, we get the bad qualities of this film. The problem with VHS is that, as with every other entry in this franchise, the vast majority of stories are just forgettable at best and actively awful at worst. The acting is horrendous in the majority of these stories, and it really took me out of the story. They just become more laughable than anything else. And outside of the Gawkers, I kind of felt like setting us in 1999 was basically inconsequential to the plot. In fact, there were slang terms used in many of these stories that were clearly anachronistic. Like, why are people saying "hala"? Just why? It doesn't help that the majority of characters are utterly awful people and just hard to bear watching, let alone connect with, which is kind of why I barely have a good time with this franchise. Because you don't really like anybody in these films. Like, nobody's just likable. And the visuals are just flat out ugly for a majority of this movie. While I like the use of practical effects, like with To Hell and Back, most of these gulls look like stuff you'd see at a cheap neighborhood haunted house. And some of the stories, especially the first, are so muddled with visual distortions that it becomes borderline unwatchable at points. And I also actively really hated some of these stories. Then Ozymandias' Dungeon started off kind of cool and interesting, then devolves into budget torture porn, like really in 2022, and then veers off into the direction of randomness by the end of it. A lot of these stories do. They rely on shock value and gore to make up for anything interesting or compelling. Is there any good qualities? Well, yeah. Like the ones I just mentioned, obviously. This movie is still better than VHS Viral, and I like the idea of it having no interlude this time for once. Well, so that was at least a bonus, but unfortunately, this ended up being my second least favorite of the franchise, and I definitely don't think I'll be buying this on Blu-ray when it hits shelves or even hits Blu-ray shelves. Well, it probably would because VHS 94 was a Shudder original and it hit Blu-ray shelves anyway. But in the end, VHS 99 is my second least favorite of this franchise, and honestly, this can be avoided if you are somehow a fan of this franchise and liked 94. Anyway, that's it for my review of VHS 99. And if you're wondering how I'm going to rate VHS 99, here's how I'm going to rank this movie. So overall, please just don't stream this one because you won't get a kick out of this film except for the same old stuff this franchise is known for. And if you're wondering how I'm going to rank VHS 99, I'm going to give VHS 99 a 5 out of 10. There we go. That wraps up my review for VHS 99. So this weekend I also plan to make a ranking of all 5 movies from worst to best. Or like, yeah, that's probably not going to be that tough because I only genuinely love one of these films. But anyway, yeah, stay tuned for that this weekend, this weekend is Halloween weekend, and October 31st, be sure to stay tuned for the season finale of Halloween Horror Movie Reviews 3. And, but yeah, and until then, guys, that'll be it for this review. Thank y'all for watching, and if you like this, want to see more, don't forget to like and subscribe to Don G. Corleone.